Errol Scott Lindsey was born on March 3, 1972, and was the youngest of 6 siblings. Those who knew him described him as an upstanding and generous individual who loved helping others and was quite popular among his group of friends. He was also very close to his family, especially to his mother Mildred and sister, and had a job making plaster figures. In 1991, Errol resided in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. On April 7, 1991, he was sent out on an errand to get a key cut. He and Dahmer met on the road, before Errol reached his destination. Unlike most of Dahmer's victims, Errol was heterosexual and had a pregnant girlfriend, so he was not attracted to Dahmer. However, Dahmer managed to charm Errol with words and invited him to his apartment for a beer. Once Errol entered the apartment, Jeffrey proceeded to drug him before carefully using power tools to drill a hole in his head. Next, he took some hydrochloric acid and poured it into the hole, hoping to render the victim in a vegetative state. Nevertheless, the drilling technique did not work for the first time, and Errol soon regained consciousness. He sat up, complained about a headache, and asked for some water, following which Jeffrey drugged him again. As bad as it sounds, his plan backfired and he strangled Errol to death. "I can't understand how it happened, how he met Errol," his mother told the reporters. "He wasn't the type to talk to just anybody. He went to work and then he came home. He was a mama's boy. He wouldn't even go out with his friends without calling me to see what I was doing." After Dahmer was arrested in July 1991, the police found Errol's skull in his apartment and identified him through dental records. In courtroom in 1992, Rita Isbell, the sister of Errol, gave very emotional statement. She said she didn't want her mother to have to go through something like that ever again. Rita started yelling at Jeffrey and addressed him as Satan, among other things. As she spoke, her anger grew, until she finally lunged towards the table where Jeffrey was sitting with his lawyers. She even lunged at him before being caught and escorted by paramedics. Later on this day, she spoke about to Associated Press. They all had to just sit there and hold it in. She spoke about other family members of the victims. "What he saw out of me is what Errol would have done. The only difference is, Errol would have leaped over that table." She also said that she wanted Dahmer to see what out of control is. She also spoke to Insider. "My plans were to get up there and say how it made my mother feel and what it did to her and all this other stuff. But no, when I got in front of his face it was a whole new ball game. I recognized evil. I was face to face with pure evil." After the Netflix show called Dahmer, The Jeffrey Dahmer Story, was released in 2022, Errol's sister Rita spoke to Insider that watching the scene of her in court brought back all of the emotions she experienced at the time. "When I think of my brother, I think of how he was such a goofball, and I think he's going to appreciate the fact that I'm still standing for him until my last breath. He knows that I'm still here for him." When I saw some of the show, it bothered me, especially when I saw myself, when I saw my name come across the screen and this lady saying verbatim exactly what I said. If I didn't know any better, I would have thought it was me. Her hair was like mine, she had on the same clothes. That's why it felt like reliving it all over again. It brought back all the emotions I was feeling back then. I was never contacted about the show. I feel like Netflix should have asked if we mind or how we felt about making it. They didn't ask me anything, they just did it. Errol's cousin Eric Perry also spoke about this case. He wrote on Twitter, "I'm not telling anyone what to watch. I know true crime media is huge right now, but if you're actually curious about the victims, my family are pissed about this show. It's re-traumatizing over and over again, and for what? How many movies, shows, documentaries do we need? Like recreating my cousin having an emotional breakdown in court in the face of the man who murdered and tortured her brother is wild." 6 months after Errol's tragic death, his daughter Tatiana was born. Little Tatiana was told her father had been killed by a Milwaukee serial killer. She first talked about it with her mother when she was 4 or 5 years old. At the age of 11 or 12, Tatiana started scouring the internet for information about her dad and his death. Then she asked her mother for more information. She learned about what happened to her father gradually, through family members and the media. She said it was hard to avoid stories about Dahmer while living in Milwaukee. Tatiana is 32 years old mother now and lives in Arizona. After Netflix show called Dahmer, The Jeffrey Dahmer Story, was released, she spoke to Insider. Honestly, ever since that show's been on I haven't been able to sleep, Tatiana said. I see Jeffrey Dahmer in my sleep. She said she only watched a scrap of the show, the one where her Aunt Rita Isbell makes an emotional victim impact statement during Dahmer's trial in 1992. I wished I could be there to take her pain away, she said. She didn't watch the rest of the show, saying it was too disturbing for her. Tatiana also believes that the show's producers should have contacted the families of the victims before the project was made. Tatiana still has many questions about how her father died, but it seems that some of them will never be answered. He didn't deserve this. I don't deserve this. None of the victims deserve it. Errol is buried on Greenwood Cemetery in Michigan. He was 19 when he died. If he was alive, he'd be 51 today.